Hello and welcome to the Business of Blockchain. I'm Nisa Amoyles. This special episode focused on a blockchain use case is sponsored by Bitdeer. Today we explore the intersection of artificial intelligence and blockchain. One of the companies working at this intersection is Modulus Labs. Daniel Shorr, CEO and founder, joins us now. Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you for having me, Nisa.
So since the rise of ChatGPT and the hype around NVIDIA, we've been hearing so much about how AI will change our lives. People working in AI are on the one hand excited and the other hand fearful.
Right.
Which one are you?
I'm definitely in the excited camp, but I definitely understand also where a lot of the concerns come from. At once it's this incredible opportunity for human flourishing, but also, of course, there are known downsides. We obviously don't love Skynet, we don't love Terminator, we don't want that outcome at all. But I think it doesn't take a lot to be convinced of the potential here, right? You can just look at that Neuralink video recently of the person who was paralyzed, able to control like a game and play chess or play Mario Kart. Right? That kind of future is something that I think everybody's really excited about and is uniquely enabled by advances in AI. So upside, downside, yeah.
So some of the fears around AI, how can blockchain contribute to controlling those?
Sure. Well, I think at a very high level, at least, what blockchain represents, even from a technical standpoint, is this idea of accountability, this idea of really strong robustness and really discrete promises. While of course AI on the other side is all about expression and power and being able to productively contribute in really creative and oftentimes scary ways. And so I think from a high level already, there seems like it would be really fruitful to marry those two technologies. But concretely, especially recently, we've seen a lot of developments in terms of applying these concepts used in blockchain to AI. Everything from how do we have more accountability in the model training, in the data provenance side of the pipeline, to actually how do we make sure it's high integrity outputs and that of course it's not controlled by a few really powerful corporations. So these old ideas in blockchain, seeing them applied towards kind of AI concerns, that's pretty exciting, and that's definitely what we're seeing now.
What about deepfakes or IP attribution?
Yes, I mean those are definitely hot topics today, right? I received a robocall recently, which sounded an awful lot like family. That was really eye-opening for me. I had heard about it on the news, but actually to have it happen to me was really alarming. And that's just voice, not to mention the face stuff, of course, right? I think the short answer is these are really tough challenges, but as before, where blockchain again represents opportunities for us to really know the exact source of the data that's used to generate a specific output, or to know that an AI model is used at all, right? And which AI model. These are the kinds of answers which start to puzzle piece together, I think, how we can robustly defend against deepfakes and things like that.
So what about IP attribution?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the big ones because, of course, much in the same way that I guess when cameras first came online, suddenly it seemed like painting would be obsolete. We are now seeing AI models be much more productive and proficient at generating a ton of art. And of course, that art comes from, in the case of AI models, training on pre-existing images from existing artists, right, who are not getting attributions because it's just being scraped off the web. There's a lot of interesting projects working in the space. A buddy of mine is working on a company called Story as an example, right? All about how do we, in an inexpensive way, encode data onto a blockchain network so that as a model queries or a model provider trains their model on that data, there's actually that kind of attribution, that sourcing, which of course opens up the opportunity to compensate those original artists or creators. These kinds of ideas are still in their infancy, but sorely needed and being worked on by really smart people. So I'm optimistic.
So Vitalik Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, you contributed to a blog post with him, and there was this chart with blockchain on the one side, AI on the other side, and the intersection, talking about the benefits of blockchain, is decentralized, AI is centralized, blockchain is transparent, AI has little transparency. Tell us about the differences and the synergies and how Modulus is working on that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and certainly you're giving me too much credit. That's Vitalik. I'm just happy for us to play a small part. But certainly, again, even from a personality standpoint, right? It just seems like these two technologies, which what a time that there are these incredible inflections in both fields occurring at the same time, but that nonetheless that they could kind of complement each other and maybe enhance each other in ways that we're really concerned, right? So to give some specific examples, right? In the case of Modulus anyways, we are really focused on how do we know that a specific AI model was the one that was used to create a specific output, right? I scroll on Twitter or on my social media app of choice. I see my social feed, which is a product of an algorithmic recommendation. How do I know that the algorithm isn't politically biased, right? Or isn't, pushing a specific ideology that, maybe I'm not so excited about, right? Right now, there is no apparatus for testing these things. There's no apparatus for enforcing, these kinds of restrictions or consumer protections, you can think. But blockchain, on the other hand, and the bundle of cryptographic or cryptography kind of techniques offer, I think, a really compelling answer to that question, right? It gives us the capacity to make really concrete promises that, hey, actually, it was model, version 1.3.2, which has been tested for all these, concerns, that is responsible for, in this case, your social media recommendation. But that's really just a starting point. That's pretty low stakes. What about an AI model that is a paralegal on a really important legal case, right? Mm-hmm. Or a model that's making a medical diagnosis or recommending medication to, a patient? These are scenarios that are not sci-fi anymore. They're happening every day and increasingly more over time. And so we think that this is like absolutely essential. We need to get this right, and we have a precious window to get it right before we really, live in uncharted territory.
So what are the benefits of decentralized compute in pushing those boundaries of machine learning?
Well, I think the big kind of counterexample or the counterparty here, and in some sense the default path of society right now, is we see a handful of really, really powerful companies controlling the production of these, insanely expressive and will be increasingly more expressive AI models, right? So the concrete example is, of course, Gemini Ultra. I think this came out recently from Google. That model costs $180 million to train. That is a pretty large sum of money, right? When you get to this figure range, there's only, again, a few companies that can produce these kinds of models. And so as a society, we kind of have to ask ourselves, are we okay with basically just these companies being responsible for what will be most likely the next generation of innovations at every part of society, right? Decentralization, right? I mean, very concretely, splitting up the math and logic involved with creating these models across, lots of different computers, right? Even small computers that aren't very powerful. That is a really powerful antidote to the inherently centralizing tendencies of AI, right? You need these big companies to produce these massive models. Well, what if you don't? What if instead everybody could contribute from their laptop, from their phone, a little bit of math and logic to create the next generation competitive model, right? These kinds of ideas, I think it's just really exciting and again, appealing if you feel like the world is moving to a more centralized kind of environment.
Okay, so a day in the life 10 to 20 years from now.
Sure.
Your home, your health. Walk me through an example.
You mean with AI and all this, yeah. Well, I think I had this professor in undergrad, Andrew Ng, who had this slogan, and this is the mid-2010s, so a little bit ago, and quite prescient. He said, AI is a new electricity, right? And of course, as a freshman, I heard that, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of contrived, I don't know. But of course, we are now seeing AI models and AI features being implemented at, again, every part of the social stack. From you wake up in the morning, your house is climate controlled, your appliances get started without your interaction, to you're taking a self-driving cab, at least I live in San Francisco, to your office, to, most of the emails, you already have kind of a draft prepared because a specific AI model has been trained on your tone of voice, on your diction, and can, just make you massively more productive, right? We're seeing it happen. We're really seeing kind of the incorporation of this tech in every part.
And your self-driving car does what how does it use blockchain AI?
Oh, well, I certainly use AI for the self-driving part, but I think where the blockchain intersections begin to occur is, again, where those transactions happen, right? Is that my car? Is it somebody else's? Is it a robotaxi? How is it interacting with the other agents on the road, whether it's other cars or other autonomous kind of vehicles or appliances? As well as, of course, kind of the liability component, right? How do we know that a specific car is running on a specific version of a self-driving algorithm? How do we know that algorithm has been tested? If there is an accident, how do we attribute accountability. These are things that blockchains have been trying to solve for, the context of currency and digital assets for a long time. And we think, oh, wait, actually there's an application space here as well.
And they pay for their own gas?
Well, or electricity, I guess. We hope so.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what about regulation?
Sure.
What kind of message would you give to lawmakers in the US?
Yeah. This is, again, being oriented from the perspective of an early business owner in this space. I am definitely of the belief that ultimately we want to encourage and incentivize the market to compete and create safer solutions, more productive solutions, and have a really transparent and robust playing field with known rules for that engagement to happen, right? So to make very concrete, if we had a standard, for example, to measure our models against, or if we had really clear regulations around exactly what kind of digital kind of assets are permissible in the U.S. environment anyways, that would be massively helpful. I think by contrast, regulating things like, hey, here's the number of flops that's allowed for your model training, or here's a specific hardware, these are probably, in my opinion, a bit more short-sighted, because as soon as these kinds of regulations get written down, the industry has already moved far beyond them, right? And so instead of trying to paternalistically, draft a really specific vision of the future, we should, again, encourage the free market to come in and compete and offer consumers the best possible products, right? Modulus, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make a stand and say, you know what, we're going to offer private industry a route, a path to offering accountable AI that is safe, that is, all that it's supposed to be. So obviously biased, but I think that's the best way.
Well, we're super excited to see how the story develops, and thank you so much for being here.
Of course, Nisa. Thank you for having me.
That's it for today's edition of The Business of Blockchain. This special report highlighting a blockchain use case was sponsored by BitZero. I'm Nisa Amiles at the Nasdaq market site.